Hello, everyone. My name is C, and today I'm excited to share my presentation on understanding diversity with a special focus on how language, accessibility, and cultural identity can intersect with educational experiences of deaf and hard of hearing students. This topic is close to my heart and connects with my goals as a future instructional designer. I believe that when we center the needs of diverse learners, we can create better educational outcomes for everyone. I hope that this presentation can encourage you to think differently about inclusion and learning equity. To begin, here's a little bit about me. I'm 24, turning 25 soon, and I'm from Highland Park, New Jersey. I live with my mom, 2 sisters, and 2 adorable Yorkies who definitely keep life interesting. I currently work as a bud tender at a recreational dispensary, which has taught me a lot about communication and empathy with diverse people. Although outside of work, I do enjoy exploring topics around social justice, identity, and how education can become more inclusive. As a future instructional designer, my mission is to create inclusive and accessible learning experiences. I want to make sure every learner feels empowered, represented, and supported, and that's regardless of how they learn, what language they speak, or what abilities they have. I believe that well-designed educational content can open doors for people who are often left out. To me, accessibility isn't a feature. It's an important foundation for how learning should be built. My project centers on the intersectionality of deaf and hard of hearing children in education. I chose to explore how accessibility, language, and cultural identity deeply influence their academic and social experiences. Oftentimes, these students face exclusion due to the lack of language access or understanding. By highlighting these realities, I hope to inspire more intentional practices in schools and instructional design. I chose this topic because I believe deaf and hard of hearing students, especially those from marginalized backgrounds, deserve learning environments that celebrate their communication styles and culture. Removing barriers like lack of sign language or closed captions isn't just about fairness. It's about opening doors to lifelong learning. This topic also challenges the idea that one-size-fits-all teaching works for everyone. However, equity means giving students what they need and not treating everybody the same. My interest in this topic comes from the desire to better understand how different learners experience school. The more I've studied accessibility, especially through creative media, the more passionate I became about making education welcoming for everyone regardless of their ability. I realized that inclusive design isn't just a trend. It's a responsibility. It's not just about the tools. It's about changing our mindset and designing with intention and empathy. My first resource comes from the National Institute on Deafness. It defines American Sign Language not just as a tool, but as a complete and natural language with its own structure. This resource helped me to understand that ASL is not just a translation of English, but a unique language with its own grammar and syntax. Knowing this helps us to honor deaf culture and design learning that respects and reflects this identity. It also highlights how important it is to recognize ASL as the first language of many deaf students, not just as a secondary support tool. My second resource is the award-winning short film, The Silent Child. It tells the story of Libby, a young deaf girl in a hearing family and a school that doesn't understand ASL. This film emotionally captures the isolation and frustration that many deaf students face. It reminds educators and designers that silence in the classroom doesn't mean disinterest. It often means exclusion. The story reinforces the urgent need for early ASL exposure and trained professionals who can support deaf students throughout their learning journey. My third resource is a TED Talk by Jeffrey Bravin, a leader in deaf education. He explores how deaf students, especially those from underserved backgrounds, are often excluded due to systemic barriers and language deprivation. Although his message is clear, when we give deaf children early access to language and mentors, their chances of success skyrocket. This talk influenced me to think beyond accommodation and towards full cultural inclusion in design. It also encouraged me to incorporate advocacy into my instructional design practice by centering lived experiences and authentic voices. Overall, here's what I've learned so far. Deaf and hard of hearing students bring powerful strengths, especially in visual learning and nonverbal communication. They often observe and engage in ways that many of us overlook. By supporting their success, it will require us to shape how we will define intelligence and communication in the classroom. To finalize my thoughts, understanding the intersection of language, culture, and disability is key to true equity. It's not enough to just include deaf students. We need to honor their linguistic identity and give them full access to learning. As a future instructional designer, I'm committed to designing spaces that do more than accommodate. They will also empower. True educational equity doesn't just happen. It's built through awareness, advocacy, and intentional design. This final slide will contain my sources that are accessible through a Google document with full references. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this presentation has encouraged you to think more deeply about inclusion in education. Together, we can create classrooms where communication differences are not just barriers, but bridges to understanding.